languages, a lot of times they use the bang or exclamation mark in order to indicate not or a negative. So what this should do is it should remove all files that do not start with a lowercase a to z. And to test that out first before we run rm, which is always a good thing to do an ls first. Let's see this one more time here. A to Z. That's not found. Let's see if it just finds A to Z star. Yes. So all these files start with A to Z. Let's try and do this with RM and say not A to Z. And so the not character there is not working for this demonstration in this shell. So that basically sums up the file name expansion characters: question mark, the square brackets, the asterisks, and the curly brackets. The next thing I want to show you is quoting. Quotes have a very different effect depending on what command you're using them with. So for instance, I'll show you here, if I say echo less than asterisk greater than, that will not actually work because the less than sign, the asterisk, and the greater than sign all have special meaning to the bash shell. They are interpreted to have a special meaning, so it will not print those literally. If I just type echo hello, it prints that to the screen fine because HELLO do not have special meaning to the bash shell. Likewise, if I just type echo asterisk, it's not going to literally print an asterisk to the screen. It's going to use file name expansion and expand that out to all the files in this directory in one long string. That is not the effect we want. So if we wanted to print the less than asterisk greater than sign literally, we could do this one of two ways, and one way is more simpler than the other. So we can escape each and every character that has special meaning to the shell using the backslash. The backslash character is the escape character in bash. So backslash asterisk, backslash greater than. Now we see that it will actually literally print that to the screen. Same if I just did backslash asterisk, it will print an asterisk to the screen. It's not interpreting it literally because we are escaping it. We can also just put that in single quotes. Less than, asterisk, greater than, close single quotes. Now, if I tried to do this with double quotes, that would work too. The difference between the single quotes and the double quotes is that there are some commands or some characters inside of double quotes that will still have a special meaning to the shell. For instance, a $sign. If I said echo $home, this is a bash environment variable. That's going to print, it's going to expand that variable name out to its actual value. And the value of $home, that variable is /home/student. If I wanted to literally print that, I would have to say echo single quote $home. And then it would literally print $home to the screen. A couple more examples here. Echo my log name is $log name. This will actually print my log name is student. But if I did that same command again, with single quotes, it does not expand the variable log name to its value of student. Same thing with command substitution. If I said in single quotes, today is, and I use command substitution here, the date, it literally prints the $ open paren and the word date. But if I use double quotations, it actually runs the command date and uses command substitution to replace it with the output of the command date in its place. So that is the effect quoting has, and you may find yourself needing to use quotes for several different reasons. For instance, especially if you're working in an environment that you share with Windows computers or Windows file shares. A lot of Windows users like to put spaces in their file names, and if you become a Linux admin or a Linux user primarily, you will really start to hate when people put spaces in their file names, and I'll show you why. I can actually create a file with a space in it here by saying, this is my file, but you have to put quotations around it. Now if I do an ls, we'll do a long listing. Say I'm trying to do an ls of this file. Bash has implemented a few features that kind of make this a lot easier now than it used to be. Now if you tab complete this, it actually auto-completes the whole name, and if you notice, it automatically puts backspaces or backslashes in to escape the space characters, because space characters have a special meaning to the bash shell. And we learned that in one of the very first parts of the course, that white space characters indicate a separation in the number of arguments on the command line. For instance, ls space tac l, when I execute this command, it's telling the shell ls is the command, I see white space, the next thing is the first argument, tac l. If I do another white space character to type this is my file, it knows that this white space character separates another argument. So if we try and do that, and I'll show you the error that shows up. If I try and just say this is my file, it's going to think that we're trying to run an ls command on 4 different files. A file called this, a file called is, a file called my, and a file called file, which none of those exist. So anytime you have white space or spaces in a file name, you have to do one of two things. You either have to escape every one of them, which it will auto-complete for you if you use the tab auto-completion feature, or you can put quotes around it, and that will work as well. The last couple things we're going to talk about here are a couple other special characters for the bash shell. So the first thing is the semicolon. The semicolon separates multiple commands. So say I wanted to run the ls command, or say I wanted to run the date command, semicolon, and then ls, for any file that has 2 characters in its name, and then I wanted to run, then I wanted to print, echo, these files have 2 characters, and then I wanted to run the date command again. Well, normally you would have to type this 4 times. Each one is a separate command. But if you separate each command by a semicolon, the bash shell automatically knows that when it sees a semicolon, that is the end of the command, so it needs to execute the first one, and then it can execute the next one. So you'll notice that it just ran all 4 of those at the same time. It ran the date command, then it ran the ls command, then it printed what I wanted to the screen using echo, and then it ran the date command again. So that is a semicolon. The next thing is a comment. Now a comment really has no effect, but that's also kind of the purpose. For instance, if I ran that same command again, But at the beginning of the command, I put a hashtag, it will literally do nothing. And the reason for that is because the hashtag indicates a comment. And comments are often used in files in scripts and programming languages. Comments are often used in order to kind of explain or make notes about the code that's about to follow it. You can also make inline comments where you can type the command ls and then put a comment after it that says, lists files with 2 characters. And this isn't going to mess up anything because it will only ignore everything to the right of the comment character. So this command will work just fine. If I just tried to type if I tried to do that without the comment character, we're obviously going to get an error because it's then going to think that list files with 2 characters are all individual file names that it's trying to do a list on. And that doesn't work. But anything that is preceded by a hashtag or a pound sign is completely ignored by the bash shell. So that is what a comment is. And you'll oftentimes hear people say, go into a configuration file for a particular service and comment out this specific functionality or comment out this feature. And all that really means is go into the config file, put a comment in front of the line that enables that specific feature, and then the next time the service starts up, it's going to ignore it. Even though it's still in the config file, it won't actually read it because it's commented out. So if you hear that phrase, that's exactly what that means. And that's about it for special characters related to the bash shell, as well as file name expansion and globbing. Hopefully this wasn't too confusing for you and you were able to learn something from it.